So you remember how in school you would cram study for a test like the day before you had it, and you'd remember everything within the test material long enough, like just long enough, that you'd be able to get an A on the test. But then, like, if someone had you take the test a week after you did it, you'd get every answer wrong, you would fail, and you'd be like, shit. You forget everything instantly. So anyway, that's what I'm doing for Vending Machine Isekai this week, because this ain't gonna stay in my mind longer than the minute after the podcast ends. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, this one was very forgettable, which is crazy.
This was the worst episode of the show.
The worst one.
This absolutely was the worst episode of the show.
Even worse than the condom episode?
Yes, way worse than it. Because at least at least episode 3, first of all, had the condom scene in question.
Oh, true.
Although this has a slightly worse equivalent, what you could argue to be an equivalent. But, like, at least episode 3 was, like, shifting gears enough and, like, pretty continuously. So it was, like, it was boring, it was nothing. But it was at least a bunch of different ideas of nothing, a bunch of different takes on nothing. This episode is like one
big
continuous, one big nothing, but it's like running the same nothing into the ground so hard that you just like, God, it's so bad.
Crunchy,
It's
I don't know
bad.
what you're talking about because you're giving this show too much poor sportsmanship. This show rewards the true believers, all right? Those that are willing to stick with it through thick and thin as a reward for our viewership. Making it to episode 9 of Reborn as a Vending Machine, So I Wandered the Dungeon. We discover the earth-shattering revelation, the dynamic shifting discovery that will change the way we understand Vending Machine Isekai as we know it. The director bear's real name is actually Bami.
I was popping off whenever I heard that.
Same.
It was what I was wondering this entire time. What is the bear's actual name? And now that we know it, I give up. It
was
it was not very peak. Let's just say that.
I can't believe you say that. Well, if that's not good enough for you, how about we throw in an entirely new character? His name is Michul, which is like if I got really drunk and started saying the name Miguel, but like I was like blackout drunk, I was slurring my words.
So, Michul, granted, this show has never had the best cast of side characters, but this is like a one-off character. His thing is that he's a pretty boy. He's really hot.
He's the
All
hero.
The girls. Yeah, he's the hero. And so all the girls love him, but secretly he has social anxiety, and it was not portrayed in a particularly interesting or clever or fun or funny or
well, no, see, Crunchy, this is the point of this character is that he's like super hot and really attractive and really strong, like beats all the bad guys. But in actuality, he's really an antisocial loser, so the viewer can project onto him and be like, whoa, he's just like me for real. I'm, like, attractive probably, but I'm also antisocial, and that's why I get no bitches.
This is just Shiraishi from Tanaka-kun, but less funny. Not less funny, this one isn't funny. I also feel dirty comparing anything from this show to anything from Tanaka-kun, because the former is actually good.
But how could you hate on Michel, the aloof Black Flash, when we just got done talking about Jujutsu Kaisen earlier today?
That was the most excited I was in the entire episode, and it was just because of Jujutsu Kaisen, an infinitely better show.
Yeah, oh, by the way, apropos of like almost literally nothing, but it just dawned on me that we forgot to give scores in the Jujutsu Kaisen podcast.
Oh yeah, wait.
Do you
I
want to?
was going to give scores, but we got sidetracked
Yeah, we got into a big
debating
argument about whether
Nobara.
Nobara is actually evil or not.
I
uh,
think we both gave it an 8, didn't we?
yeah, we both gave it. I was gonna say, do you want to like lore build like, yeah, the lore building of the Neon Manta Crunchy Bagels crossover lore and just stick the score here, or do you want to like after this is done, record a thing of just us saying our scores for it, and I'll just put it in post.
Honestly, we build the Crunchy Bagels Neon Manto lore. Make them work for it.
Yeah, it's like the MCU where now it's not just enough to watch the movies; you gotta watch the TV shows as well.
Exactly. We all know how that's going for Marvel. Extremely low, which is why we're doing it here.
Uh,
So this episode, oh God, we've gone 6 minutes without actually discussing what it's about.
I
So,
know. I mean, we've already covered Mishul, and that's like a majority of it.
so this episode is basically like, hey, you know that layer of the abyss that was just a maze? It's not just a maze. There's a thing outside the maze,
And it's
you can
nothing!
they set up that it's a wasteland, and I was like,
And they
if
weren't
this-
kidding.
if that were like Mushoku Tensei, it'd be like, oh, it's a wasteland. Oh, this is gonna be so interesting because there's gonna be like predators, like powerful creatures. It's gonna be beautifully.
Well, if it were
rendered.
Mushoku
It's gonna
Tensei,
look-
it's definitely there definitely would be predators in there, but we'd be following that.
Oh God. But
the
yeah,
days of
in
Jimmy.
Mushoku Tensei, I'd be so hyped, so popping off. But when I heard that it was a wasteland in this show, I was like, I know they aren't kidding.
Maybe if
know
Boxo,
what's gonna-
fought a slave or two, maybe we'd be talking, but
It at least make the show. It at least be something happening.
he vends slaves.
No, no. Oh God, you're putting what horrible images in my mind. It's like nothing happened in this episode. I know we say that every episode.
No, but yeah, literally this time. Like, their whole goal is to ensure that nothing is happening. They're just supposed to walk around the outside of the maze and be like, okay, there's like, they want to make sure that there's no unorthodox or out of the ordinary activity because of the Stratum Lord occurrences. And they do indeed ensure that nothing is happening. The only thing that happens is that they get attacked by people who we never are told. I guess we'll find out later. Well, but we're not right now. We're not told why these guys are after Mishul. I just assume that they are an evil cult and he is the hero. But that
I did find it a little odd how no one has like any questions as to what those people are about.
oh, they have questions.
I know that
he just
they've
refuses to
been-
answer.
and they're just okay with him not answering them. They're like not suspicious at all. Don't raise an eyebrow. Like it's not every day you see someone. They recommend him to go to the Menagerie of Fools. That's how much they trust him. Like I know they were together for 2 weeks, but how much? How did you trust this guy this much?
Because
Oh,
he's
no.
a hottie with antisocial skills. Of course he gets with all the women.
Yeah, I guess. I'm just like, I can at least get that they're like more trusting of him than not.
Bro,
But why-
Crunchy, let me
why
tell
would
you, when
you
you are
then
helping a girl while she's on her
immediately-
period, she's smitten for life. Let me tell you.
Oh yeah, the moment we got together when she confessed to me that she was feeling pain from her period, and I was like, "It's okay, bro.
It's okay,
I'll
babe.
help you through it." Dude, okay, so
I
Oh,
feel
God.
like broken by the show that we got to the period piece quite literally, and we entered the period arc, and I felt a spark.
Onimai had the better period arc.
Yeah.
They
unironically
play
true.
sad music during it. They like really heart rot music. Like Box is like, oh my lord, she's going through so much pain. How do I help her out? And I'm like, it's a period. It's I get that it sucks to have one. You know, I get that it sucks when you're on one, but we do not need the sad music, guys. It's not that big of a deal.
It is the hardest thing for a woman to go through, Crunchy. There has been nothing in history worse that women have had to go through than their monthly period.
It's like
It wants to be episode
Oni.
3 so bad. It wants to be the condom scene.
See, the thing is, when I say Onimai had the better period scene, I do literally mean in like every single regard.
I do unironically. I haven't
Onimai
finished
took
it.
it
I've seen the
seriously.
scene though. It did take it seriously, and it was like pretty heartfelt that Mihari had to no like because she knows what it's like, and Mahiro doesn't. So she's
Yeah, that's
being
like
a good sister.
builds into the point of the show and builds the character dynamics in interesting ways. It's like you can take it seriously. I'm not opposed to that. You just don't have to take it so seriously that there's sad music in the background. Like it's not that big of a deal, guys.
Yeah, so when that happens, we get to the evil cult dudes who try to attack the hero, and at first the hero's like, "Nah, you guys aren't allowed to follow me. I have to deal with this by myself." But then Lamps is like, "All right, let's propose a deal. Try to break Boxo's barrier. If you can break it, then we'll know how strong you are, and we won't bother you during this ordeal. But if you can't break it, we're gonna come with you and help you." And he's like, "Fine." And he unleashes the fucking Sasuke Kirin Lightning Dragon from his sword. Boxo blocks it, of course. And then
That scene was so insufferable because I'm like, of course Boxo blocks it. There was literally never a question in my mind that he would block it.
the
You could
easiest
literally
thing for the show to
smash
do, this was like the easiest slam dunk, is to let Mishul break the barrier and then have Boxo be like,
I
"Oh
hoped
shit,
that would
I'm
happen.
actually there are people as strong as he is, and I'm not
But
on that
it's like,
level."
I knew that he would block it, but I wanted him to not block it. I
I
wanted that would have actually made Mishuel like at least a little interesting. At least there would be
Oh my god, how could there
some kind of
possibly be
pulse.
any life form above Boxo, the apex predator? But nope. He's just he's a peon in comparison. And then it's followed up by just some more 10 out of 10 classic vending machine isekai dialogue where Lamus and Boxo are getting attacked by some of the like cult guys, and they got these magic wands. They're shooting magic blasts at him. And then he says, Boxo says, "I think the barrier can also protect against magic." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, you blocked a lightning dragon like 2 minutes ago! Did you think that wasn't magic?"
I mean, maybe it isn't. I don't know how that would work. But
It came from a sword. It wasn't. He didn't block like a
maybe
dragon that has
it's
lightning
a sword
powers.
swing.
It was dragon-shaped lightning that the dude fired from his sword like a Bleach Getsuka Tensho. That's magic.
Yeah, like I'm really trying to come up with a justification for that
There's
line
none.
of dialogue. But yeah, like every single instance of the barrier used in the show is like like no matter what it is, you can always like project it or, you know, like accept it into the barrier. It's like, why would magic be an exception? Why would you even have that doubt in your mind?
Isn't the barrier magic?
Do you understand why I think this is the worst episode of the show yet?
I mean, I feel like, I'm trying to.
He's really trying to argue, but he doesn't have one.
I didn't loathe my time like I did with
I loathed my time
episode with like some episodes lower than I am reevaluating in my head. I feel like episode 7 was worse. Because not a lot happened there. All we did was meet some
Episode
furries.
7 at least had the novelty of being granted an extremely boring location. But you know what? This location is even more boring. It's literally just a wasteland. We've gone from a maze to a flat desert with like nothing in it except for one like I'm just trying to imagine, like, okay, so this is like one of the least traveled stratums. Like, there's so much you could do with that. You could have like, these houses in the distance. We could learn about the culture of this area. They spend 2 weeks, 2 weeks traveling the perimeter. There's so much you could put in that time. Do you know how far you can walk in 2 weeks? You can walk really far in 2 weeks.
You could walk
There,
maybe even a whole 2 feet.
yeah. So like, why is there nothing? Why?
Because it's a
How could
wasteland,
they not come
Crunchy.
up with any
That
ideas?
was the
Yeah,
point.
I know it's a wasteland, but
It was a mission accomplished. Yeah. The only other thing of note is that when they get back, that those old capitalist bastards run by Jeff Bezos at Chains Restaurants, trying to copy success. They're trying to mass produce fake boxos, and by using their food, by making fake vending machines at the old Chains restaurant because Boxo was
was this like
away.
after the ED
Yes.
or something? Okay, yeah, I didn't watch that.
Okay, well, you didn't miss much because I think it was just a gag, kind of like the Jujutsu Kaisen omakes. Uh, yeah, that happened. Yeah, that's basically the short event of it. And they got shut down immediately after Boxo came back. So you'd think like, oh, maybe Chains is gonna make a comeback and be like, oh, they're trying to like replicate Boxo. Maybe that'll be a plot for another episode.
Do we really
Instantly
care
done.
about Chain's restaurant? I mean, maybe I cared about it in episode 5. I don't anymore. We're well past that.
I'm more invested in the fake bit that we made up for it, with calling it Jeff Bezos. They calling them capitalist swines. But yeah.
This episode was like a 1 out of 10.
I don't know about that. Like, I didn't like hate myself by the end. Like I've seen 1 out of 10 episodes of shows. This is not one of those. Uh,
I mean, what would it take for this show to have a 1 out of 10 episode?
well, well, remove the period scene. That would definitely the period scene alone prevents it from getting a 1. Let's be real here.
I wouldn't say that. The period scene was pretty much nothing. It's just not anywhere close to as like immediately funny as the scene from episode 3.
I will admit I got a small glimmer of that episode 1. It was a tiny glimmer, mind you, but a small glimmer of that episode 1 magic where
Where?
when Lamus was fighting those guys using Boxo's car washing powers by shooting them with water blast from the hose and then using soap to blind them and then hitting them with the water again. Well, because it's basically she's fighting with a water hose in another world, like a high pressure hose.
Yeah, and they didn't do anything fun with it.
I guess they did like blinding with soap bubbles because like
Yeah, that's like
it's not
a
a lot.
tactic.
It's very basic, but it's like a tiny little something. But it ain't just
It's
the
like
same.
the smallest hump in a complete flat line. Like, to me, the worst type of episode in a show is one that makes me genuinely feel nothing. And this is about as close to this as you can get. Like, just nothing except I want to be done watching this already. It didn't help that I watched it directly after Jujutsu Kaisen.
I mean, yeah, same. Like I was definitely sad going from like the peak of Jujutsu Kaisen to the the peak emphasis of vending machine isekai. Going from one extreme to another definitely was like, oh yeah, this. I am back here, aren't I?
You know what? Everything I said was a lie. Jujutsu Kaisen is terrible. Vending Machine Isekai is the best show ever made.
We gotta enjoy it while we still can, Crunchy. We're 75% done with Vending Machine Isekai. We only got
Oh,
3 episodes
thank God.
left.
I can't be over soon enough.
Oh, come on, Crunchy. Remember, you just gotta, tell yourself in the mirror. You gotta, like, Pavlov yourself with it. It's peak. It's peak. It's peak.
Just like self-hypnotize myself
It's like,
into
what was it, Clockwork Orange or, fucking 1984,
yeah,
where they make the guy see the most horrifying images of all time, and they use
yeah, that's
eyedroppers.
Clockwork Orange.
Okay, yeah, and they use the eyedroppers to keep him viewing it.
I mean,
It
that's what it feels like. That image certainly encapsulates how I feel watching this show. God, I don't know how the show genuinely got worse when we went to the next stratum. It's like the concept became less fun because there's no one here. The locale was somehow less interesting because it's a maze. I cannot stress enough that it is just a maze. Um, just nothing. I feel like the past 3 episodes have been just nothing happening continuously. Like, how did we defeat a flaming skeleton and it still felt like nothing happened?
I don't know, man. I got nothing.
Yeah, I've had to vent about the show at large just to keep this
Had
over
to
20
vent about the
minutes.
show at large.
Exactly. Yeah. I have nothing more to say. This episode was pathetic.